buckle up and bring your buckle hats because Magomed Ankalaev is coming to fight Alex Pereira at UFC 313. Not only is Magomed going to be buckling up on the plane, fastening the seatbelt, heading out to Extreme Couture to train with me, but he's also going to be in for a potential buckling at the hands of Alex Pereira's leg kicks, and I can't wait for this fight. We're finally getting it. Thank you, UFC. I'm surprised it's happening in March. I mean, that's cutting it close, right? That's cutting it pretty close to Ramadan. That was the fear that Magomed wasn't going to be able to make it, but we're finally getting this fight, UFC 313. I'm going to talk about that, and we also have Leon Edwards and Jack Della Maddalena to headline a fight night in the UK. And I think this is an excellent fight. JDM seems to be getting a number one contender fight here against a former multiple-time defending champion. But first things first, let's get into Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira. We also have Justin Gaethje and Dan Hooker, a fight that a lot of people expected the UFC was going to book. It's being made. We'll talk about that. Justin Gaethje, man, I don't know if he's going to get that one done. Pereira versus Magomed, and I'm going to take my bias out of this completely. I don't think the Pereira era is over. I do not think so. All right. Now, I understand Magomed's got a decent chance, and we'll talk about that, but Alex Pereira is still Thanos in the heavier weight classes, and the only guy that I see beating him, or the only two fighters that I see beating him right now, or three, are Jilton Almeida. That's the third. John Jones and Tom Aspinall, and there's really nobody else. I do not subscribe to the idea that anyone that has decent wrestling beats Alex Pereira. I think you have to have finishing ability on the ground, which Magomed Ankalaev, outside of an Anthony Smith fight, just hasn't really proven it much. Okay? I think that Magomed's way to win this fight is going to be a decision, a fight that he has to be perfect in, or he's going to have to put away Alex on the feet. And that is possible. We'll get into that, but I really do not think this is, again, people were talking, Magomed, brother. Listen, I love this guy. But if you're going to be banking on someone to ragdoll Alex Pereira, who Lucas Tracy took down, I don't know if that's the safest bet. Brother, you got to wear the buckle hat for this one, because I think Alex Pereira is going to be buckling Ankalaev around like the Quaker Oats, man. I've been saying this for a long time. I think Alex Pereira is going to beat Magomed Ankalaev. I think Alex Pereira is a bad matchup for Magomed. And I think people underrate Alex Pereira's ability to just survive and last on the ground. Alex Pereira has the built differentness. He's got the hands that are twice the size of everyone else's hands to just be able to grab your wrist and just stop you from doing anything. And again, he's been training with Glover. He's been getting better and better. And this seems to be the one thing that him and his team know, the grappling that is, that a guy like Magomed is going to try to take advantage of. I don't see Magomed as this really dominant wrestler. And I know that the hardcore fans are going to respond to that, and they're going to say Magomed has a really nice step through. He's got a really good ability to land big counter shots on the feet. And this is what I will say. Think about it. Khalil Roundtree is the last guy we expected to give Alex Pereira such a tough fight, right? I mean, of course, we've seen Pereira have a nice tough fight with Jan Blachowicz and Adesanya, but he ran through Yuri, he ran through Jamal Hill, and we expected him to just easily finish Khalil Roundtree. Why? Because Khalil Roundtree was making it close with the likes of Anthony Smith, because Khalil Roundtree had lost to Dustin Jacoby. He got his hand raised in that fight, but it was a robbery. Basically, what I'm saying is Khalil Roundtree wasn't really blowing people out of the water. And Magomed Ankalaev, look at what he's been doing, winning. I mean, that's all this guy does. He doesn't know how to lose. But my point is, he's not a really dominant fighter, right? Sure enough, he knocked out Johnny Walker, and he finished Anthony Smith. But the Rakic fight, not that dominant. If you go back to the Thiago Santos fight, not that dominant either. There's a couple other fights that Magomed has had that weren't that dominant, but this is the thing. What I'm saying is I think that Magomed Ankalaev, despite the fact that he's not been super dominant, he's not been KOing people, I think that that actually could be something that's good for him going into this fight, because I think Alex Pereira may underestimate him a little bit on the feet and just think, you know, this guy's going to decisions with Rakic, and he's going to decisions with these people that are getting KO'd and dominated in other fights. I'm just going to whoop this guy's ass on the feet. The only thing I have to worry about is the threat of the takedown. But Magomed Ankalaev, fast, right? He's got good kicks, good leg kick defense. I know we joke around about him getting buckled around by Jan Blachowicz, but let's be honest. Ankalaev actually has decent leg kick defense. He showed that in the Rakic fight. It's gotten better. And again, defensively sound. Picks his moments. Waits for the right time. He's got the nice step through, switch stance. And I taught him that. But Ankalaev also has the threat of the takedown, which is going to loom on Alex Pereira. Because even though Ankalaev may not be a guy that's going to submit Alex Pereira, he may hold him down and he may land some pit-pat shots. And that may be in Pereira's mind. But the reason why I do pick Alex Pereira to win this fight is because I see him getting more confident as his career progresses in the MMA fight game where he's starting to stalk people down. I think if you're going to have a fight that's perfect before this one, it's a Khalil Roundtree fight where he's fighting a number 8 ranked guy who in his mind may not be that much of a threat to him, but then it turns out to be a little bit of a battle, and now he's not going to doubt anyone. He's not going to disrespect anyone, especially my boy Magomed. But okay, dude, Magomed Ankalaev is going to lose this fight. I'm sorry. I just think he's going to lose. Like, I love Magomed, but Pereira's just going to whoop his ass. Like, Pereira's just going to leg kick the fuck out of him. All right? Pereira's going to fucking piece him up to the body. Okay? And Magomed's going to crack Alex a few times, but Alex Pereira, first off, wait a second. Magomed Ankalaev might be a southpaw. I think he might be a southpaw. Things are getting tricky now. We know Alex Pereira has struggled with southpaws like Adesanya. That's the thing. This is why Magomed could win. And if he does win, it's either going to be a decision, winning a couple rounds with the grappling and maybe getting a big moment on the feet, edging out a round on the feet early on because of the threat of the takedown or something like that. But he could also just chin Alex. And this is what I'm saying. I feel like there's a chance that Pereira goes into this fight not respecting the pop of Magomed, not respecting the speed, because Magomed is fast. He's sort of like a taller version of Azamat Mirzakhanov with better offensive wrestling and more patient, right? But he's fast and he can catch you. I keep saying that step through switch stance. Magomed has that, okay? And he's very technical, brother. Very technical, brother. I think Magomed has a chance to land a big power bomb on Alex Pereira's southpaw, right? The straight shots. But ultimately, I think that Pereira is going to chew up his legs. I think the leg kicks from Pereira, they're unstoppable. And we just know the power at this point. Dude, Yuri Prohaska's got a granite chin. It was proved against Jamal Hill this past weekend. Nobody hurts Yuri Prohaska. Nobody puts him away, despite the fact that they can land on him in a heavy weight class where people have power. But Alex Pereira hits him once with the left hook, he goes flying. It's the equalizer, man, the left hook. And he's going to set it up well. So, yeah, I mean, listen, if Magomed Ankalaev had a mean submission game, maybe I would think differently about this. If Magomed Ankalaev has finished Rakic on the ground, maybe I think differently about this. But I'm going to go with Alex. I think Alex is going to get it done via built differentness with the left hook and the leg kicks. However, do not doubt Magomed's chance to have moments on the feet where he lands via speed, because that's what Roundtree was doing. Roundtree was just using pure speed to land on Alex. And also, I don't want to give too much away, but I will be in his corner for this fight. So, we got a couple tricks up our sleeve, brother. Anyway, Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker. I'm going to go with Dan Hooker. I am a little bit tempted to go with Justin Gaethje because it seems like every time Justin Gaethje gets flatline KO'd or sent flying across the octagon, he comes back and wins his next 2 fights and has his chin intact. Like, he lost to Charles, and then he bounced back beating Dustin Poirier, and before that, Rafael Fiziev. Like, those were amazing wins. And we thought Justin Gaethje, after losing to Charles, getting sent flying across the octagon, was done. Like a fish out of water, just toast, right? Like one of those fish in SpongeBob, in that SpongeBob movie where, they're in the fucking gift shop and they're all freaking frying to death because they're all getting dried out onto the light. That's basically what we were thinking Justin Gaethje was going into his fight with Fiziev, bro. And now Justin Gaethje's gotten flatlined even worse. So it's either, again, you may fall into the trap of being like, Gaethje sucks these days. Gaethje's got no chin, and he comes back and he eats whatever Dan Hooker has to offer for breakfast and just lands big old nasty ones, big left hooks and big right hooks, tipping his head off to the side and letting the Rufus grunts go. So it's possible that Justin Gaethje wins this fight, but ultimately, I'm going to pick Dan Hooker. It's because he's on a bit of a resurgence. I mean, the fact that he beat Mateusz Gamrot is very impressive to me. And I think Dan Hooker could snatch up a guillotine, the hangman. People forget, man. I don't mean, listen, people forget. Dan Hooker is called the hangman for a reason. He has a bunch of submissions back in the day. Dan Hooker with his very, rangy style, I could see him landing a knee up the middle. I could see him keeping Justin Gaethje at the end of his reach with the jab. And it seems like Dan Hooker these days has his chin back, right? Because after he got KO'd by Brendan Allen and Michael Chandler back-to-back, we were thinking maybe he was done. But now he's back, right? Now he's on a crazy resurgence. And he knows Justin Gaethje has a hole in his defensive jiu-jitsu. So I could see Dan Hooker snatching up Justin Gaethje's neck. Either way, this is going to be a war. But the last flatline KO, it's kind of hard to pick Gaethje going in there against another guy who still has his toughness, who's on a resurgence, who does have the ability to submit you in one of those wild exchanges. That's the thing. Dan Hooker has an ability to get you via snatching up the neck on the feet. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Dan Hooker. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira is such a good fight, man. It's such a good fight because I honestly, the way I see it is, I think it's 60% Alex Pereira wins, 40% Magomed Ankalaev wins. But I think Magomed Ankalaev could surprise people, right? Because I think that people were going to write him off and say, who does Magomed knock out, Johnny Walker? And it's like, yeah, but man, one of those shots that you don't see coming can change an entire fight. And the thing is, Magomed is very technical, and he is at times sort of slow. I don't think he's a boring fighter, but I definitely don't think it's fireworks every time Magomed shows up. However, I think that could be something that, Alex Pereira looks at and underestimates him a little bit because of Magomed's decision ways, right? I could see it. And the people you least expect to knock out the champ, these like decision guys that can be a little bit boring at times, these are the ones that have leveled up a lot going into that title fight. So don't be surprised if Magomed gets it done, but I'm going to go with Alex. In order for me to pick a grappler to beat Alex Pereira, I have to see you consistently finishing people, and I just don't see that from Magomed yet. So I'm going to go with Alex. And Pereira's takedown defense, even against Jan Blachowicz in moments, looked decent, okay? And you got to expect him to be grappling a lot. He's been expecting this fight was going to happen for a long time. Leon Edwards, JDM, Jack Della Maddalena, bro. He's getting it done. This is the thing. Leon Edwards is really good. I know that some people are going to be saying JDM's overrated. Leon's going to get it done and prove everyone wrong. But this is the thing. Styles make fights, and Leon Edwards just does not do well in a dogfight. And he does not do well if you press him. And if you have a granite chin and if you're not afraid to get hit with the teeps up the middle and a couple head kicks on the guard, JDM's going to find a way. He did it against Kevin Holland. That was a great fight for him early on in his career, about a year and a half ago. That shows me that he can fight people that are like that. The difference is Kevin Holland is actually higher output than Leon Edwards. Kevin Holland was pretty high output in that fight. I think Leon Edwards is obviously better than Kevin Holland, especially in his grappling. But Leon, he doesn't have dangerous hands, man. He's not this guy with a lot of pop. He's a guy that likes to kick at range, and I think the JDM, with his grittiness, he's the guy that's going to move forward past your kicking range, force you into the boxing range, and that's just where Leon Edwards does his worst work on the feet, especially when he's on the back foot. So I think that we're going to see Leon win an early round or two. I think that Leon could maybe even take down Jack Della Maddalena and maybe even take his back. Now, Jack Della Maddalena is an underrated grappler. I know in his, his third or fourth UFC fight, he fought Basil Hoffus and got taken down a million times and held down a few times, but he was getting back up to his feet. But we also saw him fight Gilbert Burns, who took him down, and he reversed Gilbert Burns, right? He had Gilbert Burns holding on for dear life. And don't get me wrong, I know that I've said Gilbert Burns is not the most dangerous offensive grappler. He's better defensively than he is offensively. I think Leon Edwards has a chance to maybe have some better control over a guy like JDM. I mean, let's not forget, Leon Edwards took Bilal Muhammad's back in one of those rounds, which was pretty impressive. Leon is a good grappler. He took down Colby Covington. So don't be surprised if Leon is able to do that. And don't be surprised if he's able to win himself an early round against JDM. But I just think that Jack Della Maddalena's grappling is good enough to not be held down for 5 rounds. It's good enough to not be finished. It's good enough to get up to his feet in moments and just fucking find a way to get it done. I mean, he was losing that fight to Gilbert Burns. It was close. He obviously wasn't at his best, but he was losing that fight. 3rd round, he finds a way to get it done with like a minute and a half on the clock, reversing Gilbert Burns and just landing a kill shot. He has 5 rounds to do that against Leon Edwards. And I think 5 rounds in the cage with Jack Della Maddalena when you're like a points guy on the outside, right? And you're not suited for dogfights, and you're not this guy that can just finish people on the ground, man, I got to go with JDM. I think eventually he finds a big shot on the chin of Leon Edwards and maybe rips into the body and goes upstairs. I think that's what we could see, a slip, dip, and rip from JDM. Really, I think that this is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a later rounds finish. I think that Leon, again, will win one of the early rounds via striking, maybe an early round via grappling. Maybe he can fucking continue to do that as the fight goes on. But it's going to be really difficult to evade the bombs of Jack Della Maddalena, and he's just going to get hit. He is, right? It's going to be harder for JDM to just light him up on the feet than it was for Bilal, because, of course, when Bilal is coming at you, the threat of the takedown is there. Leon Edwards has to worry about that, especially when Bilal established that right off the bat in the fight, and JDM's not going to do that. So Leon Edwards is going to feel more comfortable on the feet, but JDM is just good enough to fucking make it happen, man. He's good enough to make it happen. I'm picking him, right? I think that the guy that Leon is going to beat next is going to be someone that is someone else that sort of darts around on the outside a little bit, right? Or, you know, a wrestler that's not got the hunger of a Bilal. But this is a bad matchup. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time. If it was easy, everybody would do it, said Marty Lewis as he was preparing for the Olympic Games back in 1952. Now, you may not be getting ready for the Olympic Games, but if you're trying to pack on some size and strength in the gym and you're an intermediate lifter, but you want to break through that plateau, try out my Ultimate Lifting Program. If you're interested, use code MMA for 30% off.